What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to build an expense tracking tool in the command line using Python, which will also make use of a database, making it a perfect project for beginners to practice their skills. So let us get right into it.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Alright, so let us get started with the database first, and for that we're going to create a new Python file which we're going to call create_db, and we're going to keep it simple here. We're just going to import SQLite 3, and we're going to establish a connection by saying SQLite3 connect expense.db or expenses.db, and then we're going to say that we want to have a cursor, which is going to be a connection.cursor. And we just want to execute a simple create statement. So cursor.execute, and we're going to use a multi-line string here in which we're going to say create, up here, create table if not exists, expenses. And as I said, we're going to keep it simple. So we're going to say we have an ID, which is an integer and a primary key. We're going to have a date, which is going to be a date. We're going to have a description. So what was the money spent on, which is going to be a text. Then we're going to also have a category, which is going to be a text as well. And then we're going to have the actual amount, so the actual price, which is going to be a real, which is the decimal data type if you want in SQLite 3. And we're going to, of course, close this bracket here. So this is our structure. And in order to create this database, we now say connection.commit to commit the changes, and then connection.close to wrap everything up. And once we run this, you can see we have this expenses database here. I can double click it here in PyCharm. I can open it, I can connect to it, and then I can say select everything from expenses. And when I run this, you can see that we have the correct structure down here: ID, date, description, category, price. And this is our basis here. This is where we're going to store the expenses. This is where we're going to get the expenses from, so that we have a persistent storage across the individual sessions. And now we're going to start with the main file. So we're going to create this main.py file. In here, we're also going to import SQLite 3 because we need to connect to the database. And we're also going to import datetime. So first, we're going to again connect to the database. So SQLite 3 connect expenses db, and we're going to create a cursor, connection.cursor. This is going to be our basis for the individual actions, and then we're going to have this basic menu or main loop, if you want to call it that. We're going to say while true, so basically an endless loop. We're going to print the following: select an option, and we're going to provide the user with different options. We're going to say 1, enter a new expense, and 2 is going to be view expenses summary or something. And then we're going to say, okay, if the choice, or actually we're going to say choice equals the integer of the input, then we're going to say if the choice is equal to 1, we're going to do one thing, and otherwise elif the choice is equal to 2, we're going to do another thing, and else if the choice is invalid, we're just going to exit. And let's go ahead and implement now the first section here, which is entering a new expense. Now, to do this, we need some information from the user. So what date was the expense on, what was the money spent on, and so on. So we're going to say here, first of all, that the date is going to be input, and we're going to prompt here enter the date of the expense, and we're going to provide the format here: year, 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 year. So 4 digits for the year, 2 for the month, and 2 for the day. And then we're going to do the same thing with the description, but without a format, obviously. So description is going to be input, enter the description of the expense, and we're going to get rid of this format here. And then we can basically, what we want to do is we want to be able to add a category, but we want to also be able to choose an existing category. So what we want to do here is we don't want to just ask the user for a string. like give me the category of this purchase, but we want to say, okay, here are the categories you already have. If you want to choose one of those, enter a number. Otherwise, you can create a new one. So what we want to do here is we want to use the cursor to execute the following statement. We want to say select and then distinct category from expenses. And what this does essentially, distinct means that we want to have only the unique values. So in the beginning, we won't have any categories in the database, so we're only going to be able to create a new one. Over time, if we have 100 entries, but we have only 3 different categories across all these entries, it will show us only those 3 distinct categories. This is the functionality of the distinct statement here. And we want to get this, we want to get the results categories by saying cursor.fetch all. And then we're going to iterate over the categories that we have, and we're going to also enumerate them so that we have an automatic menu. So we're going to say here for, or actually want to say first select a category by number or something. And then we're going to say for index category in enumerate categories, we're going to print an f string here with the index, a dot, or actually an index plus 1 because we want to have options 1 to whatever and not 0. 0 to whatever. So we're going to say here dot and then the category, and we want to print the category 0. So the actual category name. That is that. And in the end, we want to also print here the following. We want to print an f string. We're going to have length of the categories plus 1 to add an additional object here. And this object is going to be create a new category. This is going to allow us to also have the final option of if you don't like all these categories, you can create a new one. And in order to do, or in order to see what the user wants to do, we're going to now say the category choice is going to be equal to input. And then if category choice equals length of the categories, if that is the case, actually plus 1, this is what we did up here. So if we have this particular choice, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new category. So the category is going to be equal to enter the new category name. And otherwise, if that is not the case, provided we have a valid input, we're just going to assume now that the user is not going to enter a number that does not exist. But provided that is the case, provided that the input is valid, we're going to say category equals categories category choice minus 1, and from that index 0, so the actual category. And for this, we actually need to make this an integer. Otherwise, it won't work. There you go. Now, you could also, as I said, check if that is less than length of categories, because otherwise you would say invalid solution, but we're not going to take care of all the edge cases of all the exceptions that can arise, because that would just not focus too much on the essence here. But theoretically, if you want to do that exception handling, you would just have to say elif category choice is less than or less or equal to the length of categories, and then process it otherwise. And of course, above 0 is also important, and otherwise say that it's invalid and exit the script. But you would have to do that on a bunch of occasions here. So as I said, we're not going to do that. Once we have that, we're going to ask for the price. So the price is going to be input, enter the price of the expense. And once all of this is done, we're going to say cursor.execute, and we're going to insert into expenses the date, the description, the category, the price, the following values, which are going to be, we're going to use a secure prepared statement, so question marks, to avoid any SQL injections. And here we're going to pass the date, the description, the category, and the price. And it's fine to pass the string because it's going to automatically be typecasted into a date or into a price. That's not a problem. And finally, we just say connection.commit to commit the changes. And that's it for the choice 1. For the choice 2, to actually display the summary, to actually display the expenses, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to have 2 options. So select an option. And the 2 options are going to be 1, view all expenses. And then 2, view monthly expenses by category. And of course, you can add more customized options like weekly expenses or yearly expenses or all expenses by category. I'm just going to use those 2. And I think if you follow along with the code, you will be able to change them or add additional options here. So we're going to say here the view choice is going to be equal to input. Yeah, actually just to input. We don't need to ask for anything specific here. And we're going to, again, turn this into an integer. And we're going to say if view choice equals to 1 is going to be one thing. And elif view choice equals to 2 is going to be another thing. In this case, I'm going to once again add an else with an exit, just because it's simple and we don't need to do too much to prevent wrong input being processed. And for the first option, we just have to view everything. So we're going to say cursor.execute, select everything from expenses. That's quite simple. And then we're going to say expenses is going to be cursor.fetch all, and then for expense in expenses, we can just print the full expense. That's quite simple. And if we want to have it by month and by category, we're going to get the month and the category. So we're going to ask, first of all, input, enter the month, MM. Then we also want to know which year, of course, because I cannot just say January. I need to know January 2021, for example. So enter the year as well with 4 years. And then we're going to also say, actually, we don't need to enter the category because we're going to list all the categories, but we're going to group by category. That's what we want to do here. So we're going to say here now cursor.execute, and we're going to say select category sum of price. So we're going to aggregate here in the SQL statement. So we're going to say category, the sum of the price column from expenses. There's now a little SQL magic here. If you're a beginner, this might be magic. Otherwise, it's quite simple. We're not actually the category, sorry, with the string format of the time, strf time. We're going to get the month, so %m. Actually, we need to use single quotations here to make this happen. So month of the date is going to be equal to a question mark. Again, a prepared statement we're going to inject later on. And strf time year of the date here has to be also equal to a question mark. Maybe can I maybe do this on a new line? There you go. This should work. Or maybe let's do it as a multi-line string to have a better overview here. There you go. And actually not and. This was equal to another question mark. And then we have the statement group by category. So basically what we do is we select the category and the price sum for this category. We group by the category. So we sum up the price column for each category where the month is equal to something and the year is equal to something. And this something will now be passed here as a tuple, month and year that were entered here. Again, we're not going to check if the input is correct. We're just going to assume that the user enters something valid. And then as a result, we're going to say expenses equals cursor.fetch all for expense in expenses. We're going to print an F string where the category is going to be expense 0, because that's the first thing that we ask for here. and then the total is going to be expense 1, which is the second thing, the sum of the price per category. That's it. And once we have that, all we need to do here is after this, after all of this here, we're going to say repeat equals input. Would you like to do something else? And we can say yes or no. Maybe you want to add \n. And then we can say if repeat dot lower is equal to yes, we're going, oh, actually it's not equal to yes, sorry. If it's not equal to yes, we're going to break out of the loop. Otherwise, we're just going to repeat. So if we enter a no or an n or anything else but a yes, so everything else but a y, we're going to break out of the loop. Otherwise, we're going to repeat the process. And in the end, we want to close the connection. Connection dot close. So if we didn't do any mistakes here, or if I didn't do any mistakes here, this should work. We should be able to enter a new expense. Let's say we want to enter it 2020 January 12th. Enter the description, I don't know, bananas. The category, we're going to create a new one. It's going to be food. And the price, I bought quite a lot, so $150. Would you like to do something else? Yes. I want to enter a new expense, 2020 January 5th. I want to enter, I don't know, a skateboard that I bought. Is going to be, you can see I can choose now food, or I can create a new category. I will name it fun. And then I will say $300. And then I would like to add one more. Enter a new expense, or actually two more, because I want to show some stuff here. I'm going to enter one more in 2020 January, let's say 27th. It's going to be groceries. It's going to be food, so I'm going to just pick one. And it's going to be 120. And then I would like to do one more thing. Enter a new expense, let's say 2021, February 10th. And then this is going to be, I don't know, again, bananas, food, $20. And I would like to do something else. I would like to view the expenses summary now. So view all expenses. There you go. We can see a list of all the stuff that we have here. And I would like to do something else. I would like to also show monthly expenses by category. The year, the month is going to be January, so 01, and the year is going to be 2020. And you can see now here we have category food, a total of 270, and category fun, a total of 300. So this is how you build a simple expense tracker in Python. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting a like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you much for watching. See you in the next video, and bye.